south. Visual friendly contact to mark. Tally the target.
That one's on left. Continue. Cleared hot. Right.
Vernice, a FlyGirl Armour, who is a former Marine, a former Tempe police officer, and an author.
Vernice, FlyGirl Armour. Vernice Armour, or FlyGirl as she goes by.
Captain Vernice Armour was making history as a combat pilot in Iraq.
She's the nation's first female African-American combat pilot
and has become a sought-after motivational speaker.
Armour is used to breaking barriers and challenging the status quo.
Turned her passion for progress into motivational speaking, teaching crowds across the nation how to overcome their challenges.
Come on out, Vernice!
All right. Coming in from the back, achieve! Okay, this is a rare audience for me where I get to speak to a ton of amazing women in a male-dominated field. So I have to tell you one of my own personal stories first. Is that okay? Are you sure? All right. So this is after 9/11, and that was me you saw flying attack helicopters in the video. My bud flew jets. We were doing workups because we know we're getting ready to deploy, go somewhere, right? And before we deploy, we always have a friends and family day. And that's, mostly for the kids to come up, see where mom and dad work, get in the cockpit, all that stuff. She's married. Her husband is also in the military, but he has nothing to do with aviation. So every day, their 11-year-old son sees mom put on her flight suit to go fly jets. And dad put on his real military uniform to go do real work. I know. So he comes up. He gets in the cockpit of the jet. He gets in the cockpit of the helo. They even have a little flight suit that, kids could. It was awesome. Then, how many of you have watched Top Gun 2? Yeah, right? I mean, I didn't know how they were really going to parallel Top Gun 1, but they did a really good job. And if the action is not happening out in the skies and in the aircraft, where is the other predominant action? The bar. That's right. So we head up to the bar, the Yo Club, right? And no drinking allowed for him. And as luck would have it, her commanding officer walks in. Now, this guy is like the epitome of what a jet jock looks like. And he walks up to the little guy and he says, "Well, son, what do you want to do when you grow up? You want to be a jet jock, right?" Little guy thought about it for a second. "Nah, that's a girl's job." I was like, "Yeah! Right?" It was awesome. Well, I know we're closing things up, and I have my slide presentation ready. I just want to talk a little bit about bonds, yields, assets under management. Let's get that 18 to 20 billion. No. Oh, man. It's a crazy world, right now? I mean, recession, maybe not. Inflation, COVID. There are a lot of folks that don't know if they'll be in their home next month, let alone a year from now. There's a lot of uncertainty. War, not just the one I was in 20 years ago, that's still going on today. Ukraine, now Israel, Hamas. I mean, it's so crazy in this moment. Would you not agree? And honestly, it reminds me of combat. Because things were always shifting. They were always in transition. Something was always changing, right? And if we had been planning for a mission, whether it had been a couple hours, a couple days, or a couple months for like a bin Laden kind of mission, right? The moment we were walking out to the aircraft and getting in the cockpit, the plan had already shifted. Either the enemy had shifted, the situation had shifted, the objective area had shifted, the mission had shifted, the weather had shifted, right? Which determined what missiles, rockets, ammo that we loaded up on the aircraft. Because there were some missiles that if there was a cloud cover, couldn't shoot them because they had to have direct line of sight, right? And one particular mission, honestly, I remember it like it was yesterday. And you can keep up the IMAG until I click to the slide and keep it up for about 5 or 6 seconds and then go back to IMAG. I mean, I do love my facial expressions. No. Unemployed comedian, just so we're all clear, all right? This particular mission, we'd been out for a little over an hour, and we were taking out a target that was known to have munitions in it, right? From landmines, mortars, rockets, missiles, C4. I mean, anything and everything the enemy could use to create IEDs, right? Improvised explosive devices. Unfortunately, we probably all learned way more about IEDs than we'd ever want to, and the toll that it takes on our troops, from TBI, traumatic brain injury, losing an arm or leg, coming home as an amputee, to unfortunately, loss of life. All my brothers and sisters didn't come home. So needless to say, we were vigorously working to take out this target when we got a call from one of our ground controllers, and you could hear the desperation in this guy's voice. Viper, we have Marines and soldiers pinned down north of the cemetery, and they need your help. Now, in that moment, if you could have felt the acid bomb explode in my stomach. Why? Because we had been out for a little over an hour, which meant we only had 20 minutes of fuel left. And that's not a lot of fuel to get up to the north of the cemetery, execute an attack, and get back to base, right? And on top of low fuel, because we'd so vigorously been working to take out this target, we only had one missile left on our aircraft. Now, I'll be honest, that one missile was still on the aircraft because we hoped we didn't ever have to use it. Right? It was known to be unreliable in close proximity to our troops. And when your Marines and soldiers are in trouble, you answer the call, right? Now, in this moment, this is what I call a gutsy move. In your gut, you know it's right, it takes guts to do it, but you gotta take action. If you don't take action, it wasn't a gutsy move. It was just a gutsy thought, that's right. And gutsy thoughts don't get us anywhere. Is that an Amber Alert? Hold on. FlyGirl, we need you. Don't worry, I am here. Earthquake, I didn't feel anything. Did you guys feel anything? I thought it was me running into the room. All right? Oh, man. Okay. I was speaking at this one event, and it was a tornado. And if we do need to get under the table, shelter in place, we will absolutely take all the precautions that we need to. Are we good? Are we on the top floor? No. Oh, gosh. Wait a minute. Oh, what does it say, actually? Hold on. Drop, cover, hold. Right. I can't remember where I was. It might have been Kansas or somewhere crazy. And that, no, we don't want to be there. Say that again? You were going north of the cemetery. Oh, no, not in the story. I'm talking about another, natural potential. It was like Kansas, and I definitely was not in Kansas in the cemetery. No. Okay. okay, now I got to tell Kansas. So it was like a tornado, this horrible, crazy storm, and all the things went off. But we were already in well, you know, when you have to seek shelter and go to the shelter part, like where we were was actually where people would go if something happened. All the lights went out, and someone said, I feel totally safe with you, FlyGirl, right? It was awesome. We did part of the keynote in the dark. It was amazing. So where was I? The cemetery, right? I was like, no, I don't want to go there. Oh my gosh. You can't make this stuff up. So, the gutsy move. In your gut, you know, it's right, it takes guts to do it, but you gotta take action. It's not a thought, it's a gutsy action, right? You have to get into action. When Kay was saying, what are you guys gonna do when you walk out the doors and you get back? I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna get my CFP. I was like, yes! Right? I'm still working on my Series 7, but that's okay. That's where I digress. Check in the box. Marines don't leave Marines behind. We're heading up to the north of the cemetery. We check in on station. Next ground controller checks in with us. This guy even more desperate than the first. Viper. We're pinned down. We don't have any ammunition to shoot back with. We don't even have any green smoke to mark our position. Let me know when you can see the glint from my mirror. Folks, when you are pinned down and all you have is a mirror the size of the palm of your hand, you're in trouble. As I scanned into that cemetery looking for any sign of our friendly forces, a small glint came back. Contact, I see you. Viper. Do you see that road in front of me running from east to west? Follow it to the west. You're gonna see another road that runs north and south. Follow it to the south. You're gonna see a building sticking out with a tower, with a blue dome at the top. Call when you contact that building. Followed the first road to the west, saw the next road headed south, saw a couple of buildings, couple towers, blue dome, contact. Brick right, I quickly yell out. Why? Because now small arms fire is coming out of that tower, trying to take us out of the sky. All right, pause for a second. Time out. How many times have you been sitting with your laptop, vigorously trying to knock down the email in your inbox? An enemy pops up right in front of you, meeting 5 minutes, PowerPoint, right? Sometimes you gotta break out to the right, come back around, think about it, and re-engage. It's exactly what we did on this day. We flew out over the open desert. I turned that selector switch over to that very last missile remaining on our aircraft. We pop up over the ridge. I am now searching, scanning for my target. Target in sight, looking down on the target, finger on the trigger, waiting to come in range. But most importantly, waiting for that magical phrase, you have permission to engage. That's right. And so once we got that permission, we were cleared to shoot all our missiles, rockets, ammo that we had on the aircraft to take out the target, right? And not just cleared, but cleared hot, right? And why were we cleared hot? Well, because when missiles, rockets, ammo impact their target, they are on fire. They are incendiary. They are they're on fire. They're incendiary. They are Thank you. That's right. She's like, on fire. Hot, hot. We got our magical phrase. I pulled the trigger. Missile away, I called out. Nothing happened. Marines and soldiers on the ground, inevitably getting ready to go into hand-to-hand combat if we didn't come through and that missile didn't come off the aircraft. We quickly communicated with each other in the cockpit, communicated with the pilots that were covering us. We reset a couple switches. I turned that selector switch back over to that very last missile remaining on our aircraft. for one final try. And why was it our last attempt? Exactly. Didn't have enough fuel to come around for a reattack, and in a few precious moments, we'd be too close to the target for the missile to be able to come off and strike, right? I pulled that trigger one last time. Missile comes off the rail, impacts the target. Jason in the back seat shoots all 26 rockets remaining on the aircraft. And we pull up to the right, and we head back to base. We land almost out of fuel, completely out of ammo. And I go up to the officer of the day. The Marines and soldiers, what happened with the mission? He said, ma'am, the target was destroyed. Yeah. It was an amazing moment. Being able to do what we were there to do, what we were called to do, our very purpose on the planet, right? To bring the Marines and soldiers home that night. What's our mission? What are we supposed to be doing on our battlefield? Just shout it out. Taking care of our people, our friends, our family, our neighbors on the battlefield of life. That's what connects us right now. And our wealth, our resources, that's our life. For us, for our next generation, for the generation to come, we have folks building generational wealth, right? And we already know what happens when crap hits the fan, right? I mean, what was the number one most essential component to accomplishing the mission that day in the cemetery? Gutsy move, yes. Just shout it out. Most essential component, what was it? Teamwork, communication, precision, training, confidence, planning, courage, leadership. The pilot. I couldn't help it. All right. The missile, right? And I actually heard someone say it. Actually, one guy, luck. I'm like, what? Luck. A little bit of luck in a situation like that goes a long way. Take it any day of the week. Number one most essential component, and I heard someone back here say it, was planning. It was the plan. It was our flight plan for success. Why the plan? Because the plan simply gave us the framework to go from where we were to where we wanted to be, right? It's just a framework. And when crap hits the fan, we flex and adapt, get back on course, and accomplish the mission anyway, right? And I mean, do you think that's the first time we ever thought, what if the missile doesn't come off? No, we had contingency upon contingency upon contingency. So things like 1981 are gonna happen. Things like 9/11 are gonna happen. Things in 2007 and 8 are going to happen, right? 2023, well, I skipped 2020. Well, how can we forget about that? We had to adjust the whole way we interact with our clients. There was no way, hey, meet me for lunch. Let's connect for coffee. And we're women. We love to connect. And did you all know, and I think you probably already know this, did you know that when a man gets married, he lives longer? But when a woman gets married, like, what's up with that, right? Exactly. But he also heads out first, and we're the ones left with all the money. Right? Which takes me back to relationships. Full circle on that, right? Relationships are rocket ships, and how are we building the relationships with our folks, right? And not just one part of the relationship, both. And how are we educating? Because we know the biggest time of turnover for someone's assets is when? well, my planner, she's right? And then boom, next thing you know, someone's gone. So relationships. This is not something I'm telling you. This is a thing we know. And how we engage with our people in every moment is absolutely key. And honestly, that's the quick conversation I want us to have today before we head out to Napa and Sonoma, like standing between that, right? It's how we engage in every moment. It's that magical phrase I got out in the desert. You have permission to engage. Today, same exact words, very different emphasis, right? You have permission to engage. If, when, how you engage is absolutely a choice. Because, folks, there are no ground controllers in life. You are your ground controller. If you don't give yourself permission, who will? Who's telling you to make that call in the morning? Who's telling you to set that appointment? Who's telling you to get that continuing education? Who's telling you to do any of the stuff that we do? Take our kid out for a one-on-one, have a date night with our wife or husband. How we engage and show up in life is everything. Now, before COVID, and don't we preface everything now but pre-COVID, and is there really a post-COVID? Right? We just say after COVID, right? I think we're really thinking after 2020. I used to run in my flight suit, and it would never fail. Hold on a second. Do you all know Seth? Do you guys know Seth? Seth, raise your hand. Okay, there's Seth in the back. All right, so I just want you to put your eyes on him. Okay, thanks, Seth. So a woman will come up, and I told you I'm in my flight suit, right? And she's like, oh my God, I love your outfit. 2 tours Iraq, 166 combat sorties. Like, this is not an outfit. It's a uniform. And I am from the South. So what did I say? Thank you. That's right. If I were from Texas, what would I say? Bless your heart. That's right. And that is not a compliment. So I said, thank you. He said, you must be a pilot, right? Yes, ma'am. Air Force, right? No. Marines. She's like, oh my God, Marines, that is so awesome. That is cool. They are bad. They are the toughest girl. You are so bad. I am so proud of you. Well, wait a minute. Marines are the toughest. And don't get me wrong, but you're a woman. You're black. Thinking, yeah, I forgot when I was brushing my teeth in the mirror this morning. Did you have any challenges and obstacles? Now, at that point, I am cracking up, right? Oh, of course I had challenges and obstacles. I mean, everyone has challenges and obstacles. I mean, all the guys there with me, flight school was hard. Becoming a Marine was hard. Police academy was hard. Combat was hard. All the guys there with me, we all had challenges and obstacles. I mean, even the average white guy has challenges and obstacles. Right, Seth? I mean, nobody. Not to say you were average by any means, right? I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Seth, so thank you, Seth, right? The key is acknowledge the obstacles. Don't give them power. Yeah. Oh, you can clap on that. That's cool. Sure. Acknowledge the obstacles. Don't give them power. Now, easy to say, maybe not the easiest to do. And some of my buds were like, yeah, V, that's cool. All my friends call me V, by the way. Right. When crap really hit the fan for you, how'd you deal with it? And I said, that's an honest question. And to give you a little context or perspective, when I first joined my squadron, I was the only female pilot out of 365 Marines and 67 pilots, right? So let's just say my onboarding package was a little different. And there was never a wait for the women's bathroom. Now, we haven't experienced any of that over the last couple of days, right? I mean, if I needed to cram for a test, study for a test, I needed an emotional break, or just needed whatever, the bathroom was always there. And one morning, I could feel my emotions kind of coming up. Honestly, I could feel the stinging in my eyes. We all know what the stinging in the eyes means, right? Like the tears were not far away, right? And I knew the bathroom was not going to be enough. So I grabbed my car keys. I drove to the beach, which was a quick 5 minutes away. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, just north of San Diego. That's right, Sand Dog. And by the time I got out there, I was bawling. I was crying my eyes out. And I called up Mom. I said, Mom, I am done. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to put up with this. I don't have to take this from them. I'm ready to just pull these wings off, throw them on the ground, and walk away. I mean, they were only on with Velcro. Would have been easy. Mom said, baby, stop crying, dry your eyes, and go back to work. You did not work this hard, this long, to give up now. So what did I do? What did I do? Right, that's right, I did. I stopped crying, I dried my eyes, and I went back to work. Right. And what was Mom essentially saying? Suck it up. That's right. And for today, we'll just use acknowledge the obstacles. Don't give them power. Goes better with the talk, right? Suck it up. Let's go. Why are you here? Sexism, racism, discrimination. Everybody always asks me, did I ever have to deal with any sexism? I'll ask you right now. Did I have to deal with any sexism, racism, or discrimination? Yes. Okay, that's obviously not the question, right? The real question is, how did I navigate those moments, right? So one particular morning, I was walking down the hall, and I said, hey to Joe, we locked eyes. He looked at me, didn't say a thing, and kept walking. I'm like, whoa. I mean, I could feel that moment, that tension, the awkwardness. You know what I'm talking about? A couple of you, yeah. Okay, let me ask a different question. If you are married, raise your hand. Okay, quite a few. A couple of folks were like, yeah, no, I'm living longer. So let me ask you a different question. Okay, if you have ever been in a relationship ever in your life, raise your hand. Okay, if the person next to you did not raise their hand, we'll work with them after. Whole nother session of the bar. All right. In that relationship, did you ever have any colorful conversation? Banter, discussion, argument, right? Tension. Like you wake up in the morning, hey, honey, like, whoa, you don't even know what happened. Why, right? For any number of reasons. Well, if it happens with the people we love, it's gonna happen with the people we don't, right? Fair? So when I was walking down the hall and I said, hey to Joe, Joe didn't say hello back. It could have been for any number of reasons, yeah? He might have had a test flight coming up and he was in the zone or zoned out. He might have gotten in an argument with his wife that morning. He might not have liked my short hair, the fact that I ride a motorcycle, or the fact that I could bench press more than him. Or the fact that I was black, woman, or gay. But the deep part is the moment I took my focus off of why I was there. Lives were at stake. Think about that for a second. The moment I took my focus off of why I was there, lives were at stake. All because Joe didn't say, hello, right. So what's at stake when we take our focus off of why we're here, right? And I like to say and you'll see this several times, how we engage in every moment is absolutely key, period, end of story. And, I'm from the South, I have isms. And if you're from the South, all your grannies have isms, right? And my great-grandmother and my favorite one that she had, she put her whole body into it. Something good good's gonna come out of this, right? Right? To be clear, it could have been catastrophic. But great-grandmother would ball up those little fists. Something good's gonna come out of this, right? Feisty does not encapsulate who great-grandmother was. And back in the 50s, she decided it was time for a new car. So she drove down to the Cadillac dealership by herself and bought a brand new Caddy off the showroom floor. Now, this is a huge deal, right? Because, I mean, a woman in the 50s, a woman couldn't even go to Sears and buy a washer and dryer set without her husband being there and his approval, right? I mean, remember Sears? Look, stay relevant. We gotta stay relevant, right? Great-grandmother, a black woman, left her husband at home, drove down to the Cadillac dealership, and bought a brand new Caddy off the showroom floor. 2 days later, completely totaled. I know. But what did great-grandmother say? Something good's gonna come out of this. That's right. Now, I don't know if she said it that way. Now, great-grandmother said it with conviction every time. Every time. So my question for us, as we go through the ups and downs, the challenges, the obstacles, the adversities, the inequities, what's our live-by phrase? What's our live-by mentality? What's getting you through to the other side? Right? Something good's gonna come out of this. And how do you create the breakthrough? And I call that breakthrough mentality, refusing to settle, even in the smallest of moments, and demanding the breakthrough. And when it comes to our lives, I mean, if you could imagine life as a huge, juicy navel orange sitting in the palm of your hand, how do you squeeze it as hard as you can where the juice rolls down your arm and drips off your elbow? I mean, how do you squeeze the juice out of life like that? I heard one young lady over here say, I'm going to stop doing the things I don't like and start doing the things that bring me more joy. I mean, sounds super simple, right? And it is. Isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do in the world. Now we have so many things tugging at us. Honestly, I do not believe in work-life balance. It does not exist. Hopefully you didn't have a breakout session on that. Work-life integration. There are 5 days out of 7 are work. It will never be balanced, right? But there is work-life integration because at some point, work is going to take more. At some point, your life or your family or your significant other, at different points and times, it ebbs and it flows. So how you integrate it all, that's truly the key, right? And, people have asked me, V, how did you end up becoming an attack helicopter pilot anyway? I mean, easy story. All started out at the age of 4. I wanted to be a police officer that rode a horse downtown, right? A mounted patrol. At the age of 6, I got my very first pony. Like, yeah, I'm halfway there, right? In this picture, how many of you think I knew every single step I needed to take to become a police officer that rode horse downtown? Knew all the steps? No. How many of you think you could have talked me out of wanting to be that police officer that rode a horse downtown? You're like, yeah, no. Even though I didn't know how. So you're telling me I made the decision to do it and didn't even know how. So at what point did not knowing how start being a deal breaker for us? It's not about the knowing how. It's about making the decision, engaging with ourselves, making that decision, and then taking the actions to put the how into place, even though the how could be a who. I mean, how many have read that book, Who Not How, right? It's the resource. How are we navigating the challenges and obstacles? It's this morning, this is a cool hotel, wouldn't you say? The venue is amazing. Seth took me up to the garden on the rooftop, and when we were coming back, because I saw the bees, almost gave me PTSD because I had a bee infestation like a month ago and had to call the bee guy out, and there was like honeycomb in the house. It was crazy. I know. Ugh. But then I see these bees, I'm like, oh no. It's like, oh, they're supposed to be there, okay. And we're reading the little description on the glass, right? And it says a bee in its lifetime will make how much honey? Did anybody read that? 5 grams of honey for one whole bee, for its whole entire life. I know you're thinking back on that tea you made, and you're like how many bees? Right? It's like a teaspoon. And when we think of our clients and their work and their assets under management, if you will, and how hard they had to work for it, like, let's just take an iPhone, the Pro Max, $1,500. Now, this is just for analogy's sake. I don't know if we have any private equity, private wealth folks in here. But let's say somebody made $15 an hour. How many hours do they have to make to buy that cell phone? I know we have the plans and the pay on it monthly, and credit is different these days. But when you boil it down, how many hours does it take to pay for that iPhone? 100 hours! That's crazy, right? Only 11% of women make over $100,000 a year. 11%. Only, I think 1% of women in their women-owned business make over $1 million a year. So when I think about our resources, our finances, my personal assets, right? We're taking care of people's livelihood. They're 5 grams. That's it. How are we taking care of them? In every moment, folks. So, as I'm going through in life and deciding that I wanted to be a police officer, and my calling on the planet was to protect and serve. I wanted to be that cop that rode a horse downtown. It's time for me to go to college. I didn't have any money to go to school with. My parents didn't have any money to send me, so I ended up going to school on student loans, Pell Grants. Now, that set up a very interesting situation called broke. And back in the day, they used to say you got to get creative. Right now, the buzzword's innovation. I could have asked ChatGPT back then, but it didn't exist. So I go to the student union, and I see this flyer on the wall. And it said, free trip to Mardi Gras. I'm like, what? Like, that is for me. Sign me up. And it fits the budget. Free. I get up closer to the flyer. Why did I get closer to the flyer? Woo, you are, yes, to read the fine print. And it said all I had to do was join the women's ROTC rifle team. I said, what? ROTC? You know, I remember seeing them walk around in the uniforms, all that. I was like, that is not for me. Partying is, sign me up. So I signed up for the team. We practiced for a couple months, and then we head down to Mardi Gras, Nolens, New Orleans, the Big Easy, for 7 days of nonstop, non-interrupted, continuous partying. And we marched for 7 days. It's not my idea of nonstop, continuous partying. Exactly, I know, right? And I learned something in that moment, how to prepare for my passion. Couldn't be a police officer until I was 21, but I could enlist in the United States military. Why would I do that? Preparation, right? How could I prepare for my passion? Right? Again, when I leave here, I'm taking my CF, I'm passing my CF. Not taking, I'm passing my CFP, right? So I decided to enlist in the Army Reserves, take off a semester, went through training, came back in the summer, made up all my classes, and I knew I wanted to leverage the strategic advantage even more. So I joined ROT as an actual cadet. During my junior to senior year, they sent me to Leadership Advance Camp at Fort Bragg. That's where I ended up. Well, okay, does everybody have their accountability buddy? I know you're wondering, like, what does this have to do with Leadership Advance? She's like, yep. So I had a buddy, young white female, on an aviation contract, meaning she was going to be a pilot in the Army. And this is preparation for me. I wanted to do anything where I could shoot a gun or blow something up. Right? But when you're with your accountability buddy, you cannot split up under any circumstances. I mean, even if she had to go to the bathroom, I had to stand right there. And there were no stalls in women's bathrooms. I mean, it's the Army. I know that's like TMI, but it's like for real. And so there was no, you go over here, I go over there, and let's connect back up in an hour, right? Everywhere I went, she had to go. She already knew what she was doing. I didn't. So I'm walking around at all the cool stuff, right? Sniper platoon, Delta Force, Special Forces, artillery, everything women couldn't do back then because of combat exclusion laws. And around 12:30, she said, Armour, can we please go to the aviation tent now? I said, okay, fine. Black people don't even fly. Now, we know that's not true. Tuskegee Airman, Bessie Coleman, Willa Brown, the legacy is long and large. Folks, it's about access and exposure. Are we giving ourselves the access and exposure to reach the goals? But even more so, are we giving our clients the access and exposure to help them reach their goals, right? I walk into the tent, and it's a little dim inside, and you know how when you walk into a dimly lit room and there are, it takes a second for your eyes to adjust, basically. I look towards the back, black woman in a flight suit. I'm like, what? That is cool. Why didn't I think of that? Right? Slide. Now, this is me, but every time I see this picture, I think of that woman in the flight suit. Hot summer day, 1995. Didn't know her name, didn't know anything about her. It was the tangibility of the possibility. I could see her, touch her, talk to her, ask her questions. Absolutely amazing, blew my mind. Because of her, I am. What if she had not wanted to show up for career day, quit during flight school, ripped her wings off, threw them on the ground, and walked away? I don't have to what if, she didn't. Because of her, I am. Stand up and be counted, because you never know who's counting on you. So I go on, a couple more years, end up getting on the police department. It was amazing. It was just like Cops on TV. Have you all seen Cops? Okay. Did you see me? Okay, I'll take that as a no. It was amazing. I even rode horses downtown, right? Harley Davidson, Road King, Steel Horse, chick. And I could not forget about that woman in the flight suit. So I decided to become a Marine. My dad was a Marine. My grandfather was a Marine. I wanted to be third generation Marine Corps, right? So I passed the flight test after the second time, failed it the first time, passed it the second time. Now it's time to do the physical, got through all of that stuff. I turned in my application. Yes, I am ready. They did not take me. 88% attrition rate. People never apply again. Women could only apply once a year. Males, different, but females, only once a year. So I'm part of that 12%. I applied the next year, didn't take me. Third time's the charm. I applied the third year, didn't take me. The fourth year, I have no idea of the statistics in this moment. I am an anomaly. And they're thinking, okay, this chick is not going away. They were right. Finally earned a spot. Graduated at the top of my class, went down to flight school, graduated number 1 out of my class of 12 and number 1. Yeah, number 1 out of the last 200 to graduate. It was amazing. I graduated on July 21st, 2001. I know. Drove cross country, driving north on the I-5 one particular morning to work. The announcer breaks in and says, the Pentagon has just been struck. In that moment, I knew my life had changed. I mean, I could ask most of us in here where you were, who told you, how you found out about the news of 9/11. Remember it like it was yesterday. When I got to the squadron, we all knew we were going somewhere soon. Within months, found ourselves flying over the desert floor, protecting and serving the men and women on the ground. The war started up, the war slowed down, the war ended. And our tactics instructor said, all right, things will slow down, got to get back to a training. We're going to have a tactics test. I was like, whoa, sir, wait a minute. The tactics test, I've been studying, I've been flying combat missions, Armour. You never know everything about combat or the aircraft. You should always be studying. I said, but I'm not even going to be here. I'm going up on another combat mission. I'm going to be gone for 4 days. Armour, we're taking the test when you get back. I was like, okay, got it. So I got my tactical manual, which was this thick, safety manual, which was that thick, various other manuals, piled them into my attack helicopter to do what I called studying for the next 4 days. Got back down to the squadron, PowerPoint's up on the wall. Every slide has a tactical question on it. 15 minutes into that test, I knew I wasn't doing so hot. You ever been talking to that client and you just think, or a prospect, and you think, this is not going well? Next day, confirmed. I had bombed. And honestly, I felt like the flight suit was just being ripped off of my body. I mean, first this, first that. How are women going to handle combat? How are women going to get along with the guys? How are women going to handle the stress? I mean, I felt like I'd let women down, black folks down, the Marine Corps down. But most of all, I felt like I'd let the guys down that didn't see the true potential of what I or any other woman or minority could do. And that was tough to take, right? I mean, I passed the test the second time with flying colors, but that wasn't the point. I didn't pass the test the first time when everyone was watching, right? And I don't know if you can tell or not, but I like being on the fast track. And when you fail a tactics test, they don't keep you on the fast track. You go on the normal track. And what's the fast track look like? Top Gun, becoming a test pilot, going on additional tours to Iraq, right? Instructor pilot. But when you fail a tactics test, no matter how you do the times after that, they put you on the normal track. So I did my 2 deployments, and I moved on to Headquarters Marine Corps, where I became a diversity officer liaison to the Pentagon in the Equal Opportunity Division. And I was pissed. Like, what? Diversity and equal opportunity flying I am a warrior. I am a trigger puller, and you have me flying a desk in equal opportunity? I mean, how did I end up in equal opportunity? They said, well, Armour, they wanted a black female pilot. I'm like, I'm the only one. How equal is that? I learned a new one. Bloom where you're planted. Right? Bloom where you're planted. Now, fast forward, I don't know, a couple weeks, month. I wasn't blooming. Definitely wasn't blooming. I was talking to a bud. It was complaining. I said, why did this happen? Why did that happen? God, why did I fail that tactics test? If I'd only passed that tactics test, I'd have been that instructor pilot. I'd have been that test pilot. I'd have gone to Top Gun. I would be back in Iraq right now with the rest of my squadron. And in that moment, I had to stop. Because I would have been back in Iraq with the rest of my squadron. And I wouldn't have been here to live into my new dream, starting my own company, sharing this very message around the world, helping women make bold, gutsy moves, right? Take their careers, their businesses forward. Wouldn't have been here when my dad was diagnosed with terminal bone cancer and able to visit him over 6 times in 1 year, when there were some years I couldn't even go home for Christmas or Thanksgiving because I was thousands of miles away. Wouldn't have been here when my mom called me up on a Tuesday afternoon. She wanted to know if I could come home for her birthday on Saturday. Like, Mom, I've already been home so much. The colonel's not letting anyone off for vacation. I'm not going to be able to make it. And I could hear the sadness oozing through the phone, right? And I hung up the phone. I knew I wasn't making the right decision. And honestly, full transparency, I just didn't want to deal with the colonel and the rejection and the lecture and the fallout and the, all of it. Again, gutsy move. I knew I wasn't making the right decision. I immediately booked a ticket online. Then I went into the colonel's office. Excuse me, sir, I need to take a couple days vacation. Like, I know, but I already bought a ticket. Yeah, he did not laugh. But thankfully, he let me go home. And I walk into the house. Hey, Mom, surprise, happy birthday. It was awesome. We head up to the hospital to see Dad. Dad was my favorite Marine. 3 tours, Vietnam. Crew chief. Yeah. Doesn't he look good? Crew chief on a 46 troop transport helicopter. Played for the Colts when they were back in Baltimore, right? Work construction. Like, my dad was my American hero. We got there at 2 o'clock. I heard him whisper, "Happy birthday, baby," in my mom's ear. By 6:07, Dad passed away. Les Brown has an amazing saying. You can't see the picture when you're in the frame. There were so many times I said, why did I fail that tactics test? I'm sitting in the car that night with my bud, I finally got it. Failing that tactics test put me in the room with Dad that day. What a blessing. And after years, literally years of regret, wishing I should have changed this answer, that answer, Top Gun, Iraq, I know I wouldn't change a single thing about that test anymore. I mean, I wouldn't fail one in the future. But I wouldn't change a single thing about that one. Folks, why did I share the story about my dad and my challenges? Why did I change my clothes, right? Why did I transit? Because life, well, the blazer is cool. Life is about transition. Everything that was in that flight suit, that uniform, is now in this flight suit. And notice I look a whole lot more like you right now, right? We are all in our flight suits, sitting in the cockpit of that sexy TAC helicopter. And when we run into a challenge or obstacle, we can fly left, right, hover, think about it. You can even fly backwards and go around. I like to say, who needs a runway? Take off from where you are, right? And why do we do what we do? It's for this right here. It's for our crew. It's for the community. It's for our friends, our neighbors on the battlefield of life. This is my accountability partner, man. She saved my butt on the battlefield and off, more times than I could count. In this picture, my crew had been flying night missions for a little over a month. Her crew had just come out to replace mine, so I'm headed back to the main base in the Good Chow. She's not. That's why I'm smiling bigger than she is. All right. But how are we showing up for each other in this room as the next weeks and months go on, as we work to accomplish our goals? And how are we showing up for our clients on the battlefield of life like that? And it's about that accountability and about that support. Who would like for me to be part of their accountability crew? Right? No, would you really? Now, if you really want me to be part of your accountability crew, raise your hand. All right. I got my own QR code too. Right now. And I did join the LinkedIn group, by the way. Why would you click on this, whatever? It's your gutsy guide, creating your gutsy move. How do you do that? And yes, we will also be in communication. So when I send out my weekly video that keeps you charged up, gives you another perspective on your leadership or making gutsy moves in your life, we can be there. And yes, I do answer text and emails. So there you go. You know, I talked about engaging and creating the breakthrough, right? Who would like a copy of my book? The Zero to Breakthrough, the 7-step battle-tested method for accomplishing goals that matter. No, for real, who would like a copy of this book? Who wants this book? Who wants this book? Thank you. I wasn't going to give it to you. You can't just build 99% of the bridge and think the car is going to drive across. What's your name? Julie. Give Julie a hand. Give her another hand. Oh, man, I was at a talk the other day, and I promise you I said that maybe 33, 37 times before somebody finally came. And I'm going to ask for a vulnerable moment here. Who thought about coming up to get the book? Raise your hand. Okay, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your honesty.
She was faster than me.
That does happen in life. Okay, good point. She was faster than you. She was right in the front. I've seen people come from the back, football, tackles, everything, right? And the bottom line is, what's a gutsy move? It's a gutsy move, action, right? It's not a gutsy Right. So you can't just be raising your hand, yeah, yelling. I mean, I've seen people stand in their chairs and scream to the top of their lungs, and then somebody just comes up and grabs the book. And there were people that wanted to get the book, but they didn't take action. Today it was a book. What is it tomorrow? Is your book a business because somebody was faster? Opportunities don't go away. Other people, Julie, take advantage of them. This is, and then we're just going to click through a couple slides. I'm going to wrap it up. That one gets me every time, though. Oh. People come up after. I thought that we were all going to get a book. Yep, we get to keep thinking that way. This is the aircraft that took me in and out of battle. Sometimes it had bullet holes in it, saved me from them. This is a picture of one of my breakthroughs. Oprah was amazing, right? This is back in 2003. I didn't get out until 2007. My book came out in 2010. And I've already said relationships are what? Rocket ships. Relationships are rocket ships. I call up Oprah, like, hey, Oprah, can you get me on your show? My book just came out. She's like, oh, Vernice, it's the last season. It's already, I'm like, come on, Oprah, hook a sister up, right? Did you see me on her show with my book? No. And Oprah has redeemed herself. I probably shouldn't even talk about this, probably legal counsel in the room somewhere. We haven't signed the contract yet, but it's on the way. It's like pretty much official. A month and a half ago, one of Oprah's producers reached out to me, and they want me to host my own show on her network. Yes! Okay. Stop. That is not true. But look, I'm going to say that in front of an audience, and somebody is going to know, and they're going to hook our sister up, okay? Yeah, opportunities, baby. Now, I didn't wash that side of my face for like a month, right? This is just a cool picture of me in the cockpit. Every pilot has one. And this is what it's about. The next generation. Legacy. That's why we're here. This is so much bigger than us. What do we want to achieve? Yeah, but what do we want our young ones, that next generation, our communities to achieve? It's not just the name for nothing, right? And it's not about working 80 hours in the office. When you look back on your life, when you're sitting on the porch watching the sunset, what are you going to be so grateful that you achieved, that you did, that you accomplished? Spending that time with your family, right? Your friends in your community, helping someone. People always ask me, is this my daughter? I'm like, oh, no. But I always wanted to have kids when I was in my 20s and my 30s, and I got out, started my company, and I'm like, not taking my own. If I don't pull the trigger, there will be no trigger to pull, right? So at the age of 41, I decided to go through IVF as a single black woman entrepreneur out here, and Fly Baby has arrived. I know. It's not just about the record year, but also the rewarding year. How are you creating more juice and joy in your life, right? So my time's up. I'll end with this. I had just gotten back from my very last deployment. Now I live in Atlanta, right? But any golfers in the house? Hey, let's go golf. I'm a huge golfer. I'm obsessed. I had just gotten back from my very last deployment. I am standing in line in the hospital doing what I love to do. Anyone know what that is? Yes, talking. Look, how are we going to get to know our people if we're not talking to them, right? And I'm talking to the Marine in front of me. Hey, Marine, how you doing? What's going on? He said, well, ma'am, I have some shrapnel in my left leg. I said, whoa, shrapnel? Were you recently deployed? He said, yes, ma'am, Iraq, 11th MEU. I said, I was on the 11th MEU. I was your Cobra air support. It's like, oh, wow, you fly Cobras? What? You fly Cobra? We were in Iraq, we were in the cemetery, we were pinned down, we didn't have any ammunition to shoot back with. A Cobra came in, shot a missile. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That sounds like a mission I was on. We paired it up, same mission, same aircraft, same missile. And we started hooping and hollering, woo, yeah, all right. And we were not in the psych ward yet. And he stopped and he stood there and he looked at me. And he said, "Ma'am, you saved my life." Like, wow. One mission, one goal, one team. Achieving together on the battlefield of life. And when things get tough, acknowledge the obstacles. Don't give them power. Remember, opportunities don't go away. Other people take advantage of them. Remember breakthrough mentality, refusing to settle, even in the smallest of moments. Remember great-grandmother, something good is gonna come out of this. And most of all, remember, you have permission to engage. When I yell out engage, you yell out cleared hot at the top of the roof, at the top of your lungs, and we blow the roof off. Are you ready? Yes. Are you sure? Yes.